Brevard-Online.com Sports presents Space Coast Chalk Talk. Hello everyone, I'm Ron Lighthall bringing you this week's slate of games as we see a host of teams with bye weeks this week, including Titusville, Cocoa Beach, Merritt Island, Satellite, Astronaut, Palm Bay, and O'Galley. Most of those teams will return to action Friday night, with a few of those on Thursday night as they have homecoming festivities slated for the week. Starting off, we have the Treasure Coast Titans at the Rockledge Raiders. The Treasure Coast Titans coming off a loss 69-66 to Centennial. They have proved that they are able to move the ball and score a lot, going up against a Rockledge Raider team sitting at 0-5, averaging only 4 points a game, and an inability to move the ball or stop ball movement. Look for the Treasure Coast Titans to come out victorious as they exit McClarty Stadium. Cocoa is on the road in Daytona against the Seabreeze Sand Crabs. Head coach Mark Beach of the Sand Crabs has his team averaging only 11 points per game. They're going up against the extremely seasoned Cocoa Tigers. John Wilkinson has his team at 4-1, averaging 41 points, including a 56-0 victory over Cocoa Beach last week. Look for the Cocoa Tigers to be all over Seabreeze. Holy Trinity is looking to go 500 this week as they host the Orangewood High School out of Maitland. Right now, Nathan Hooks has his Tigers averaging 28 points per game. Orangewood just cannot get it done. They're less than 6 points per game. Look for Holy Trinity to be all over Orangewood as they get things back on track and they head into the second half of the season. Viera is at Atlantic. Atlantic sits at 1-4. Viera at 5-0. Kevin Mays has his Hawks scoring on average of 47 points per game, going up against an Atlantic Shark team that averages only 13 points per game. Look for Kevin Mays and his Viera Hawks to make that bus ride home with the victory. Space Coast Vipers, Jake Owens has his team right now at 4-2. They're coming off a loss against Jones, 49-16. Turnovers proved to be very costly for the Vipers. They play host to the 1-4 Poinciana Eagles. They can only score about 16 points per game. Look for Space Coast to be all over Poinciana and keep this game with a very short field. Poinciana just cannot move the ball. One of the more exciting games in the county sees Melbourne at Bayside. Melbourne is 3-2 right now, where Bayside sits at 5-0. Both these teams are virtually deadlocked when it comes to scoring average, with Melbourne holding a slight edge at 24 points per game to the average Bayside 22 points per game. But I think Austin Evers and Jael Noel are going to be too much for the Bulldogs, and that home field advantage will prove to be very big for Bayside. Look for Bayside and the victory. Melbourne Central Catholic Hustlers are now 4-1 after their loss last week. Look for them to have a great week of practice and come in as they play host to John Carroll. John Carroll sits at 4-2. They average about 26 points per game. MCC is at 42 points per game. Brandon Ziarno is averaging 234 yards in the air per game. Look for MCC to rebound this week and just dominate John Carroll. And finally, in the south end of the county, Heritage plays host to the Westwood Panthers, and the Heritage Panthers, two Panther teams going at it. Heritage is at 4-1, Westwood 0-5. Westwood just cannot stop the ball. They cannot move the ball. Heritage is averaging 24 points per game, and they have 332 yards average rushing. Josh Gaines is 112 right now, rushing average per game. Look for Josh Gaines to probably need a new pair of shoes before the end of the game, as he will run all over the Westwood Panthers. This has been a presentation of Brevard-Online.com Sports. Once again, I'm Ron Lighthall with Space Coast Chalk Talk. We'll be back next week as we host games on Thursday and Friday this week. And look for the game of the week as Merritt Island plays host to Titusville next week. That game will be broadcast on WRDJ.com. And look for Brevard-Online.com